So the new season of 90 Day Fiancé has arrived. So I'm excited. If you're a fan of 90 Day Fiancé, go ahead and subscribe as I'll be covering these episodes going forward. So I'm going to recap this first episode of season 10 and go over the couples, and I'm going to go couple by couple and just go over what they've covered and a little bit of history that they gave us about the couples. So far we have Ashley. Ashley is from Rochester, New York. She is a happy-go-lucky. She's got an outgoing, happy personality, and she is a witch. That's what she says. And her partner is Manuel, who is from Ecuador. So in the beginning of the episode, we see her doing a card reading, show off her little witch environment where she does her readings and all the things that she has there. She met Manuel on New Year's Eve 10 years ago when she was in Ecuador for some stuff that had to do with her university class. And they got engaged, she said, within a week. After that, they were doing the long distance thing, but she says that it didn't last. I don't know that she said what really happened, what caused it to not last. But anyway, she said that they were apart for about 7 years. And they didn't speak within that time. And then they had been in other relationships. And about a week after she had broken up with somebody that she was seeing, Manuel had reached out to her. And so right away, she kind of jumped right back into something with him. They kind of rekindled their relationship or romance. And so she went to Ecuador in September of 2022, and they quarantined together. And once again, went through a quick engagement because they got engaged again within that time that they were quarantining together. So now he is supposed to come to the U.S. for 90 days, I guess now. So we see where she's having drinks with her friends. She just want to relax before Manuel is supposed to come. He's supposed to be arriving here shortly. And so she was telling her friends that he told his mom that he was working. And what she was explaining was that he works, I believe she said he works in construction, and so they would travel for work. Sometimes they'll be gone for like weeks or months on an assignment, so they'll stay in different location and work. So he told his mom that he was working, and it doesn't seem like his mom knows that he is engaged, and she definitely doesn't know that he's traveling abroad. And his reasoning is to keep her from worrying. But I don't know if I'm buying that reason. And so when I heard that, I was just like, oh boy, that's not a good sign. She's also worried about how Manuel will take her witchery, since his family is deeply religious. The Ecuadorian people are very religious. They're Catholic for the most part. And so she's kind of worried about how he will take this. I think he has some kind of, she's mentioned it, but I don't know to the extent of how deep into that she went. And of course, he hadn't been around her on a day-to-day basis because she does readings and stuff like that. People come and go. She does her little rituals. So I don't know. She's a little bit worried about that, how he will perceive that. So as we progress towards the episode, throughout the episode, we see where the day that Manuel is supposed to come has arrived. However, she hasn't heard from him. He's supposed to be arriving in the U.S. via Miami, and she had called, messaged via WhatsApp, Facebook, different platforms, and the messages have gone unread. So she is kind of worried that, it's kind of radio silence from him. We see Ashley's sister come over, and she tells her what's happening, her sister Sienna. And so she's really wondering, is this a sign that something is wrong? She's also saying, she alluded to things having been wrong in the past, different things that have been wrong. And she says could this be a sign? So even though she hasn't heard from Manuel, she's going to go to the airport as planned. And so we see where she's driving on the highway, going to the airport. She's super anxious. And so she feels like she's having a panic attack. And so she's trying to breathe. She's very anxious. So she calls her sister again. And so the end of her section in this episode, we see where her sister's telling her to breathe. And they're trying to breathe in, breathe out. She's crying and panicked breathing. And she's freaking out. So she's having a huge meltdown or panic attack in the car on the way to the airport while she's driving. So this is where her segment ends in this first episode. The next couple that we meet is Yasmin and Gino. Yasmin, she says Yasmin, and Gino says Jasmine, but it's spelled Jasmine in English, I guess the English way. So she's from Panama, and Gino is from Canton, Michigan. We see where back in Panama, Yasmin is having a party with her friends. It almost looks like a bachelorette party. So they're taking a party bus to go out and celebrate because she's leaving. And so all her friends are there with her. Everybody's, made up and party outfit and all that. And so she is describing him, and the way that she describes Gino is not very positive, but she says that she likes it. She mentions his nerdy look, his lack of a lip, his belly, and some other things that he mentioned, but apparently she says she likes it, but it wasn't really a positive way to describe him, in my opinion. We see where Gino is leaving his work, and he's taking a box of stuff from the office, and he says he's pretty much quitting his job for the time being. He told his boss that he wants to take a leave of absence. His plan is to take a year or so off work to spend time with Yasmin when she arrives, to get her settled, take her places, to get her acclimatized to the U.S. So we find out a little bit later that he hasn't told this to Yasmin, so I don't know how she's going to take that. And both admit that their relationship has been a bit of a roller coaster. They've had a lot of arguments. Yasmin had mentioned about some message that she saw on his phone from an ex. She also mentioned that he had sent some explicit photos of her to some other woman, which was kind of weird. And it seemed that Gino might have had some inappropriate interactions with other women as well. However, they claim that they keep coming back to each other and they love each other, so that's where they are. There was also a fight, too, about a prenup, and Yasmin seems to have a bit of a temper on her, too. So the fights tend to be quite explosive, and he is there's always a tete-a-tete between the two of them. While he's not as explosive, he's kind of mean, too. He's more subdued, but he will say mean things. We kind of see towards the end of the episode. She also mentions that Gino is very cheap. So one thing that made me chuckle here is that she has been getting an allowance for her wedding dress, and I don't know why he would be sending her money for a wedding dress when they would be getting married here, but there's supposed to be money that she's getting for her wedding dress, and the money is all gone because she has spent it on plastic surgery and makeup and beautifying herself. So apparently she has gotten butt implants or some butt enhancements. She feels like she's lost weight and her butt's not as perky or whatever. And she's doing it for Gino. That's what she says. And her mom was kind of concerned about all this stuff that she's doing. And also it seemed that possibly she says Gino likes her look, but she's doing this apparently for him. And he doesn't know about the butt implant as yet either. So that's going to be interesting as to how that's going to play out. Is he going to, be okay because when he sees the new butt and kind of gloss over the idea that she spent all the money, or is he going to flip out? I don't know. He might flip out since she describes him as being very cheap. So we'll see how that goes. Gino says he helps with her rent and all her expenses since she lost her job as a teacher. And so they're both pretty much unemployed at this time. I guess if he's taking a leave, he's technically still employed, and that should serve for the purpose of showing, the ability to take care of her when she arrives, as far as with the immigration, if he didn't fully leave the job. But technically, neither of them would be working now, and he doesn't know how Yasmin's going to take that. So he's got that he hasn't told her too. We see where Yasmin is packing, and her mom and her younger sister arrives, and one of her sons. She has two sons, but the one that is there is Wanse, and she says she hasn't told her son that she's leaving as yet, and so she wants to be able to. She needs to tell him about that. We see where she says she wants to take the children to the U.S. as soon as possible. And she had talked to Gina about that as well. And also their dad doesn't object. So she's ready whenever she can. As soon as she can, she'll bring them here. And she tells her son about the move. And her son takes it pretty well. He wasn't crying or anything, but she was emotional, which is understandable as a mom. And, she just let him know that she's there, she's going to go, and she's going to make sure things are ready, and then she's going to be able to, they're going to be able to come. And she mentions that when Gino has met them before, that they had a good time, even though they didn't have the language in common, they seemed to get along great. So I'm pretty sure they're looking forward to, coming as well. Yasmin, we see where she takes her dog Coco to the dog spa, and she says Coco is the only one who's coming with her at the moment because the dog doesn't need a visa. So she's got to get beautified before she hits the airport. She says she wants Coco to be the prettiest dog in the airport. So she's got to go to the doggy spa to get pretty for her arrival or for her trip. So while she's at the spa, she calls Gino and she said, look who's here, and show her the dog and whatnot. And then Gino brings up whether Coco is potty trained because he was peeing all over the place when he was there last. And so she didn't like that question. She seemed to kind of get a little bit defensive, but I feel like that's a legit question. If he has carpet in his house and whatnot, or maybe his place is not dog friendly, and that's probably something that they should have discussed before now, that working on that, making sure the dog is potty trained before, it's time for her to come. She also tells Gino about a text that she received from her sister-in-law. And the text says, do not have the wedding whatever days, as we're going to be on vacation. So she is upset about the message because she feels like the sister-in-law is being rude and being bossy and trying to tell her what to do. And I understood where she was coming from, because when you look at the text, there's no greeting, there's no nothing. It's not a suggestion, it's not a request, it's just a demand. And it was just so rude trying to tell her what to do. And so Gino is saying, well, I don't like the way you talk about my parents. And so they got in a huge argument. Gino kind of shuts down her concerns, and she's just saying, not to have the wedding on a certain date, but does not acknowledge her concerns about the interaction. And so they ended the call with some sarcastic responses and there was a little bit of the call didn't really end well at all. And it seems to me that the concern that Yasmin is having, that Gino always takes up for his family and never sticks up for her, I mean, that's kind of evident in this scenario, where I feel like she has a legit concern and he doesn't acknowledge it at all. And so while you have to stick to your family too, you still have to, make sure address your spouse's feelings too. And he did not do that at all. So when she hung up the phone, she was upset and crying. And for heaven's sake, she's going to be the bride. Why would the sister-in-law feel it was necessary to, send her this message? If anything, they should be working with her to make sure that she can have the wedding on the dates that she's planning to have it, not telling her work with my schedule. So she was really, really upset. the fact that she's leaving her life behind to come to be with Gino, and she doesn't feel like she's being treated fairly when it comes to him and his family, and that's a legit concern that can cause a huge problem. So it doesn't seem like this whole thing is starting off on a good foot already between Gino and Yasmin. Next couple is Sophie and Rob. Sophie is from London and Rob is from Inglewood, California. So Sophie tells about her life and what she does. She's an influencer. She is from a wealthy family, she says, because her granddad or something, worked really hard, and apparently money's not an object. So he's wealthy to the point where they don't have to worry. She also mentions that she grew up in Spain. Her dad is Black and her mom is white, and she mentions how she was bullied growing up because she was the only, I guess, mixed race or darker. Well, she doesn't really look that dark, but being a mixed race child growing up in Spain, it was really hard. And I think Rob is mixed race as well, and he might have had similar experiences too. So that was one thing that they had an understanding of in each other. Of course, they met online too, where I think she DM'd him or something like that. Somebody DM'd somebody. So she had been to visit him before in Los Angeles, and they had lived together for 2 months, and then she went back. And we see where he's getting ready for Sophie's arrival, and he doesn't have, I don't know, is this his own place? He just has I guess it's a studio that he rents, but it looks like a bedroom it's not even a full-on studio, because usually a studio setup you have a full kitchen, which he doesn't really have appliances, but it's not a full kitchen setup. The other thing that's weird about this place that he lives, it doesn't have a bathroom, so you have to go across a courtyard to use the bathroom, which, wow. I can't believe that Sophie is coming back with having to do that. So she mentioned that, she had to go out in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. If she had to go to the bathroom, she'd have to go out in the middle of the night. And so she just waits. And she mentions one time when she's out there taking a shower that there's a raccoon on the roof. I don't know. We don't see a picture of this bathroom, but she made it seem as though she calls it an outhouse. I don't know if it's a legit bathroom in a building and it's just separate, or if it's really just like an outhouse put together type of thing. So he's in his room, studio, getting ready, and he whips out this box and takes some things out, and I think it's rat traps. Let me know, guys, if you saw this, but he was putting it under the bed. I think it was rat traps. He said he didn't want any uninvited guests, so I think that's what it was. He also says he thinks it's going to make a cute story to tell their kids about their differences and their struggles and how they were able to make it work, regarding the fact that, how he is, and the fact that she's wealthy and he's not, and he struggles and she's a princess. So that's what he says. So we'll see how that works. On the other hand, Sophie has a really nice apartment in London, and, she's lived in many different places. She mentioned that she had lived in Mexico, of course in Spain, and then she moved to London. And she's able to support herself pretty well, whereas Rob does odd jobs to support himself. So he really doesn't seem to have a set job or a career per se. They didn't really say in this episode like what the odd jobs are, what type of industry he works in, but it doesn't seem that he has much of anything stable. Anyway, we see Sophie video calls her mom, Claire, while she's at home. She was packing, and then she gets this call. And so her mom was asking about whether she's ready and all that. And she asked, how's Rob the knob? Which we sense that from her saying that, I sense that they didn't really get along, or she didn't like him, because a knob is like a jerk, right? Or somebody who's like annoying, or hard to deal with or hard to tolerate. And so she said that, yeah, it was kind of like it means kind of like a dickhead or something like that. And so her mom's like, when her mom said that, she was like, that's not nice. I'm going to marry him. So she says she's an only child, and her mom are really close, and that, her mom and Rob are just going to have to get along. So I don't know if there's a reason that her mom doesn't like Rob outside of the fact that he's not very stable. But I guess we'll see as this season unfolds. So we see where Rob meets up with his friend Tori at a dance studio. So apparently he wants to do a dance for her when he goes to pick her up at the airport. And then he says that he's going to bring a ring as well. So once he finishes the dance routine, he's going to pop out the ring. I'm like, okay, that dance sounds kind of corny, but we'll see. So when his friend asks him what does he want to do to show him what he wants to do, he has no idea. He just stands there with his heart on his chest. And he's like, what is that? What are you doing? He has nothing. So he says, how long do you want this dance to be? So it's supposed to be a 20-second dance. And his friend asks him, so what do you want the purpose of this dance to be? And he says like a welcome to America or something fun and cute, or I don't know. So anyway, so they're supposed to be doing that. And so his friend's like, really, 20 seconds and you don't even know what you want to do? So, okay. So they go into, his friend Tori doesn't think that he's ready for marriage. I don't think that he is either. And so his friend brings up the fact that Sophie was on Bumble the last time she was there in LA, which is not good. And the reason that Sophie said was that because she was trying to meet or make friends locally while she was there. And of course, Tori is not buying that, but why Bumble though? There's other sites maybe that you can do meetups and stuff like that, not a dating site. And so Rob was like, maybe, you can do you can meet friends on there. Maybe she was on that side of Bumble by accident. And I was like, Rob. So his friend is not quite sold on this thing with Sophie, and he feels that maybe Sophie has ulterior motives. I don't know what that would be, because Rob has nothing pretty much. So, but that doesn't negate the fact that she might have been, I don't know, on the hunt for other people to be with. I don't know. Bumble is a dating site. We see where Sophie meets up with her friend Maya before she leaves. And of course, she says Maya has met Rob. And she mentions that when they were going through a rough patch that Rob was speaking to another girl online. So now Maya doesn't really have a good perception or good outlook of him because of that. And so, she's telling her that they're getting ready to move and all that, meeting up before she moves. And so they're talking about that, the plans and whatever. So, we find out that Rob had sent sexual messages of himself to another girl. I guess the girl had reached out to Sophie and said, look what your boyfriend's doing. And so that's at least one girl that she's aware of that he's had inappropriate interactions with. Sophie goes on to reveal to her friend Maya that she's bisexual. She says she hasn't told that to anyone, and it doesn't seem that Rob knows that either. So she says she's happy to get that off her chest, and then she also wonders how Rob will take that. She also wonders if, this is something that will affect their relationship. Perhaps this is something that she might need to explore before they get married. Maybe something that her and Rob could do together. I don't know. She says she's never had a girlfriend, and she says her first crush was a girl. So it seemed that she is a little bit conflicted about her sexuality, or she's not sure, and maybe this is something that should be, pinned down or figured out before she gets married. I feel like that would probably be the best decision, because you don't want to enter into a relationship being conflicted about your sexuality, and then, you know, you're going to end up hurting somebody because you're trying to figure out what or who you are. So that's something that's looming as well. It doesn't seem Rob knows that either. So the last couple we meet in this episode is Nicole and Justin. Justin's real name is Igor, but Nicole says she calls him Justin because I guess there's another person that she was dating that had a similar name or something like that. So that's the name that he's going by for the episode, or at least that's what they're showing on the screen. Nicole is 47 and she's from New Jersey, while Justin is a personal trainer from Moldova. So they do have a history because they had dated before, similar to Ashley and Manuel. So Nicole has an alter ego that's Nikki Exotica, I think is, if I'm recalling correctly. She says she's a recording artist and a beauty consultant. She says she knows everything there is to know about plastic surgery because she's pretty much had them all. She's gotten everything done under the sun. And the story that's between the two is that she was dating a Russian guy before, and he had gotten deported back to Moldova. And so when she went there to surprise him, she found out that he was living with another woman. So while she was there, she went on a local dating site, and that's how she met Justin. And so during her time there, they ended up getting engaged. I don't know if the engagement happened during their time there, but they went out during their time there. She liked him, and then they ended up getting engaged. He had gotten a K-1 visa, but she said things didn't work out. And so when she was telling this to her friends that you know, the history. And so her friend said that what was the reason it didn't work out? He didn't think that she had said before. And so she said he was being lazy. He didn't want to help. He didn't want to do anything around the house. And she was angry with him, and she blurted out that she used to be a man. And so that kind of freaked him out. And so he went back home, and they would break. I think this was revealed to him about 2 years into their relationship, and so he eventually went back home. So Nicole had a sex change when she was around 20, so she used to be a man. And so basically she's a transgender female. She's a female, but a transgender female. I don't know if that's politically correct, but she had mentioned later in the episode being a transgender woman, but she's a female. So they ended up breaking up, and they hadn't been together. It's been 15 years or so since they've been together. And so they kind of reconnected, and they went on, after they got back in touch, they went on a vacation in Mexico within 3 months of reconnecting. And then while they were on their vacation in Mexico, he proposed again. And so they've been together. So she's nervous about, you know, meeting the family again and how she's going to be perceived since it's the second time around. She said that his mom, Maya, had, you know, being nice to her, and they didn't object to the relationship the first time around. However, at that time, they didn't know she was transgender, so she's worried about how she will be received this time because it seems as though they know now. And Justin was also mentioning in their video call that for her to do a more natural look or something, I think she's going to Moldova, do a more natural look because her makeup tends to be very over the top. And so she's kind of, you know, he's kind of worried about what people will think of her a little bit. And over there, he says people are really closed-minded. So, you know, she doesn't want to come off as, she doesn't want to reveal that she's transgender, and he doesn't want her to look like over the top, just not bring unwanted attention to herself. And so we see where they're talking about, she's talking about their sex life, and so she's not really happy because they're not having as much sex as they used to be. And so we see where they're on the phone and she wants, more than what he's giving. So they joked about having a lot of sex on the phone. And that's when she, started talking about that it doesn't seem the same as before. The first time around, it was intense and everything was great. And now it's like frequency is not as much. And she's just wondering if something's wrong. And so she's saying that, look, if you can't accept me, then, because of the transgender thingy, then just need to decide, can you accept it or not? And if not, then just let it be. So, she questions whether he has fully accepted her. And so he seems, he's saying all the right things, but I don't know. Sometimes people have intuition. And so maybe this is something that, really could be a problem and he's just not saying. So these are the couples that we met in this episode. I really feel like everybody has red flags everywhere. The only person that I feel so far, based on what I see, that could possibly work out is Ashley and Manuel. But then again, I don't think she said the reason why they broke up the first time. Depending on what it is, that could be problematic as well. But all these couples have things that they really need to iron out before they even take the altar. So I don't know that 90 days it would be enough to sort the things out that they have that are looming in their relationship. So we'll see how we'll see how this season unfolds. So let me know your thoughts on the couples and what do you think of their relationship and what they have disclosed so far.